Hey y'all, this is Randy with the Living Well Blueprint. How do you define success? So we're all gonna have some idea of what success looks like, or at least what we think it looks like. Now, living in an era in which many of us can live much longer than we expected, and in numbers far greater than has ever occurred in the history, success needs to be revisited. So for most of us, we lived in that structure of you go to school, you figure out what you're gonna do. Your goal then in your career is to save as much as you possibly can so that you can then go have just a killer retirement, whatever that might mean. So that really operated and worked well for probably the last, century or so. When life expectancy was a little lower, you retire mid-60s, you have, 5 to 10 years of decent health, you're enjoying yourself, you're doing things, then you'd sort of decline, and there you go. All right? But when you're thinking about lives that go into their 90s with physical capacity and health, how does that change that whole perspective? In a lot of ways, this is a gift. We have an amazing gift. Because anyone who has gone through that, who is now in their 50s and 60s, some may have saved plenty and done really well and they're looking forward to their retirement. Others have never maybe earned as much as they hoped to or as much as they needed to, and they're in a position where I'm not in any way financially ready to retire. Right? So again, we have an opportunity. We have decades in which to reinvent ourselves, redefine how we want to live, and create the success that we desire. So, what is success? So, in that dynamic, for the most part, success is defined materially. It's how much money did you accumulate? What are your physical assets? That's success. Now, the challenge is what often happens, it's almost cliche, right? Is the older person on their deathbed who realized they were never there for their children. They weren't there for their spouse. They weren't a good person, what have you. And though they were successful in perhaps their career or in business, they weren't necessarily a success in these other areas of life. And the shame of that, the tragedy of that is they make this realization when it's too late. There's nothing they can do about it. We are not in that position. All right? We are in a completely unique position. Whatever we've done up to this point, we have an opportunity to pause and to rethink success, to rethink what success really looks like for us. Not that which was imposed upon us by our parents, perhaps, or by society, or what the cultural expectations were, what our peers were doing. Many of us, by this point in our lives, have the self-awareness and the comfort and confidence to go, now I'm going to go in the direction of my choosing. So, what is success? Now, I have my own views on it. Many of them were really molded not by my father, but in reaction to my experience with my father. And there's ways in which my dad was a success and ways in which he was not. So one story really impacted me deeply. And this is when I knew what kind of man my father was. So when I was a child, I didn't spend a lot of time with him, but there was a Saturday morning, I don't know the reason why, but my mom took me to his shop. He was a mechanic and he worked every day. It was a Saturday. Took me to his shop and dropped me off. She had to run an errand or something. Now, my dad didn't really know what to do with me, so he put me in the corner of his office with a bucket of nails, a hammer, and a board. I'm probably 5. And I was literally meant to sit there and pound nails into a board. So literally my dad's reaction to my being there was basically, go pound rocks. So, stay out of my way. I do remember, though, watching him just out of the corner of my eye as I'm kind of tinking away at nails. I couldn't really pound them. I'm tinking away at them, and I'm watching him, and he's sitting at his counter, and he can look out a window to the driveway that approaches his shop. And he has a look of just worry and a little anxiety and kind of stress. You could tell he's got something on his mind. And then we both heard the crunch of gravel as a truck pulled in the driveway and when it was approaching the shop. And my dad's face kind of turned. It sort of lightened a little bit, brightened a little bit. He went out and greeted this man. It was a farmer who rolled into town. He was in the middle of working in his fields, and the radiator in his tractor started leaking, and he couldn't finish his work. So he was in dire need. You got to help me out right now. I got to get back into my fields. So he and my dad brought the radiator in. My dad spent hours, literally hours, repairing this radiator that was beyond repair in many ways and needed to be replaced. But my dad spent hours. Seemed like hours to me. He spent an unusually large amount of time trying to repair a radiator that was beyond it. You know, he would patch a hole, he would put in the dunk tape, patch a hole, dunk tape, pressure test it. He'd go through all these things, finally got it to the point where it would hold water and the guy could get it back in his tractor and get back in his fields. So they get the radiator back in the truck. And a lot of this I filled in with my dad later. When he was sick and approaching death, I spent some time with him and had some of these conversations. And this is one of my memories that I wanted some clarification on. And he told me they took the radiator out to the truck, then came back into the office to, square up to do their business. And the man asked, what do I owe you? And my dad said, $20. And which I didn't think of then, but in hindsight seemed like an unusually small amount of money for such an effort. Even that 20, the guy kind of cringed a little bit as he pulled down his wallet and gave my dad the 20, and my dad gave him a receipt, and they parted ways. And it wasn't long after that my mom came back. I don't think that 20 left my dad's hand. My mom came back, and my dad gave her that same 20. And I left with my mom, and we went and got groceries. And what I asked him years later about that was why he charged so little. And he said he had been worried that whole morning because he didn't have any money to give my mom for groceries. And what he needed was $20. I get goosebumps when I tell this, when I think about this. And when that man came in, it was literally the answer to my dad's prayer. Not that my dad was a praying man, but that was the answer he needed. So my mom was able to get her groceries. He was able to help this man get back in the field. From my dad's perspective, that was a win-win. And that was how he approached business. He was a terrible businessman, really. But a really good man in the sense that he essentially did his work on a sliding scale. This was a small town. He knew everybody that came into his shop. So he didn't gouge anybody. He knew what something cost, but he also knew if somebody had been unemployed for several weeks or several months. He knew people personally. He knew something about their backstory. And he didn't have the heart to charge them something that was beyond their ability to pay. And he always thought in terms of, what do I need out of this? What do I want to get? So when I think about that story, and it feels a little off track, but when I think about that story, I think that is a successful person. That is somebody that was clear on their values and how they wanted to treat people in business. His business wasn't about maximizing what he could get from people. It was about, I have a skill and a talent that I enjoy. People have a need, but people also have their lives. So it was a mutually beneficial relationship. So in that sense, to me, my dad was a success. But as I've mentioned before, not a great father. Not really there for me in that regard. But boo-hoo-hoo, throw a rock and you're going to hit a guy that has a bad relationship with his dad. So I don't need to go down that road. But just understand, we all have this dichotomy, right? And my father, when he was sick, had this, light bulb moment, and he realized what he missed. When he had his first 2 grandkids, he realized what he'd missed. And he really kind of opened up at that period of time. But before he could really learn how to interact with us and learn how to connect and spend time with his grandkids, he died. So he didn't meet many of his grandkids. And most of them don't remember him. They were too young. So that's an opportunity he missed. He had success, but he had areas in which he did not succeed that because he didn't have those extra years, he couldn't make up for. That's not our situation. Of course, some people will have that same experience, but now's the time to start thinking about it. At any point in your life, always be considering, what is success in all areas of my life? And how do I try to meet all of those areas? How I think about this is from that long-term perspective. All right, you've heard of this sort of exercise of writing your eulogy, but go to the end And the most important thing you want to think about is if you're lying on your bed, on your deathbed, what is going through your mind? Is it gratitude? Is it fond memories? Or is it regrets? Is that room filled with people? Or does that room simply have a hired aide in it? Okay, that is the definition of your success. You know, we've all passed a building on a university campus or at a hospital that has somebody's name on it, and that's this whole material success, right? I'm gonna leave my legacy by putting this building with my name on it, and that means I'm super important. Do we know who those people are? Do we care who those people are? No, all right? The only thing that will matter in your life and in my life is the impression you make on the hearts, minds, and lives of other people, okay? That's success. All right, we have all had a mentor, a teacher, a coach, somebody in our life who's made a difference, that came into our lives at a pivotal moment and impressed upon us in a certain way that altered us. And the question I ask is, do they know they had that impact on you? I can think of 3 or 4 people that changed my life that do not know that. But that does not negate the value of that. See, how we show up in our life and how we impress ourselves on others is the value. It's not the outcome we get. It's not the benefit we get. It's not the reward we get. It's not the recognition we get. So as we look down the barrel of 3 to 4 decades, this is an opportunity for each of us to sit down, to think deeply. What does success mean to me? Going forward and then looking back, what do I want to know I have done? What do I want to know I've succeeded at? What have I missed in my first half? Where have I done well? Where have I missed? And now is the time. It's the opportunity to address those things. We all have something. And if you consider the time you have, it's a lot. Again, we don't have the mental maps for what's going forward, but I am 56. If I look back 40 years, I'm 16 years old. I am a moron, right? I got zits all over my face. I don't know anything that's in front of me. I could never have imagined or guessed what my life has become. And I think the same going forward. I have 30 to 40 years to do this again, but I'm wiser. I'm in a much better position to appreciate, enjoy, and maximize that opportunity. The same for you. So, what is success? You've brought yourself to this point. Okay, whatever you've done well in, good on you. What have you missed? What's still left out there? And most importantly, how do you envision spending the next 30 to 40 years? Okay? Is amusing yourself enough? Because that is not a legacy. That will not be remembered. Think deeply about this. Take some time, reflect, realign, redefine what the future means for you. This is Randy, and this is the Living Well Blueprint. I hope you appreciated and enjoyed the video. If you liked it, please subscribe, share it with somebody you know, and I will see you next time.